Ms. Munoz, are you able to start recording the meeting?
Yes, I can.
And then Letty said that she needs to be made an interpreter. All right, we will call this meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. And we will move into roll call for our local school council organizational meeting. So Lori Zamey, school principal.
Nicole Granicki, community rep.
Aisha Noble, parent rep.
Evan Trad, teacher rep.
Jerry Baumgarten, teacher rep.
Bill Kennedy, parent rep.
Javier C. Wright, parent rep.
Elisa Wartic, community rep.
Claire Gervasi, parent rep.
And I believe that's everybody that's currently on the call. I have currently not in attendance, Sandra Kafarkis, Matthew Kwame, and Tremaine Mabry, but it's possible that they will be joining the meeting midway. So I will oversee the motion to appoint a temporary chairperson. So can somebody make a motion to appoint a temporary chair? I will make a motion to appoint Aisha, the temporary chair.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Discussion. Is there any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? Thanks, Aisha.
Sure. I just wanted to check with, are there any other folks that might be interested? Okie dokie. That's it for discussion. I'll mute.
All right. And then any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, so Aisha will take us through the next part of the agenda.
Sure. Let me just get my tab together. Okay. Is there a motion to appoint a temporary secretary?
I'll make a motion to appoint Nicole temporary secretary if she's willing.
I second it.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Is there a motion for an approval of the order of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, nomination for chairperson. Is there a motion for nomination of chair?
I nominate Javi.
Not, are there any, well, ask Javi if he would be willing. Would you be willing to be chair for the upcoming school year?
Yes, I'd be willing. Thank you, Claire.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Well, oh, okay.
Or sorry,
Did you want to? Are you not interested, Aisha?
Oh, because I think it's great to pass kind of the torch and let other folks take on that responsibility. So
I personally very much agree with that.
it's been absolutely rewarding. I'm excited to see Javi take on the role of chair. While we're in discussion, I also want to check, we have another parent, if there were any other, hi Matthew. We were just going through nominating the chair for the upcoming school year. So I'm acting as temporary chair today. The motion on the table is to nominate Javi as chair. So I'm gonna ask the other parents, since chair role has to be a parent representative. So if there are any other folks interested in being chair or nominating, or if anyone else on the council wishes to nominate another chair. Okay, so the motion on the table is for Javier C. Wright to be chair of the LSC for the upcoming school year. So we have a first, and that was Claire, second from Bill. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I abstain, and that's just because that's my preferred method in any voting of positions that are permanent.
Fair enough. Motion passes. Javi, I turn the agenda over to you.
Thank you, Aisha. Next, okay. Next item on the agenda, item 7, motion for nomination of secretary. Are there any nominations for secretary?
I nominate Bill.
Bill, do you accept the nomination or do we need a second first?
I'm more than willing to let somebody else do it, but sure, I will accept it. Yes.
Thank you, Bill. Is there any second for the nomination?
I'll second Aisha. Thank you, Bill.
Okay. Any further nominations for the role of secretary? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call the vote. All those in favor of having Bill Kennedy be secretary? All those opposed? Seeing no opposed, abstaining.
I'll abstain.
Those Amy abstains. Congratulations, Bill.
That means I take over now, right? So I got to, is that right? Nicole, you want to share some notes with me if you started them, or?
Yeah, I can share them after the call. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is nomination for the role of vice chair. Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I nominate Matthew.
Matthew, do you accept the nomination?
I accept. You were what you wish for.
Any seconds?
I second.
Thank you, Claire. Any other nominations for the role of vice chair? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of Matthew Kwame as vice chair, please raise your hands. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Principal Amy abstains. Congratulations, Matthew. You are the vice chair of the LSC.
Thank you.
The next point on the agenda is nomination for the role of FOIA OMA officer. Are there any nominations for FOIA OMA officer?
Is there a way that I'm not sure, we're picking up a lot of background noise and it looks like everyone's muted, but I'm not sure if it's coming from translation. Is anyone else hearing the background noise or is it just me?
I think it's coming from Hobby because he's in a room full of people.
Oh, okay. I thought it was the translator, so I thought it was a different channel. My apologies.
Let me switch rooms.
Sorry, it's hard to hear.
No, you're right. You're right. While he's doing that, Jerry, how are you doing?
Next week at this time, I'll have a baby.
I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it, watching the time. Like, yeah, 7 days.
July 19th, yes. But I will still be able to serve on the LSC. I checked that out for maternity leave.
Cool.
Thank
Everything
you for
ready,
asking.
the room, no problem.
No.
The room painted and everything. No.
I'm Jewish.
No.
We don't do any of that, so we're not ready at all. But I appreciate you asking.
I guess I'm an honorary Jewish citizen then, because or a Jewish person. It wasn't ready at all.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Jerry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a great day to be born. Cancer season is a good season.
Okay, I've switched rooms and I have ditched my headphones, so hopefully that's a lot better. Continuing the current point of the agenda, any nominations for FOIA OMA officer?
I'll nominate Elisa.
Lisa, do you accept?
Sure,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
that's okay.
Are there any seconds for Elisa as FOIA OMA officer?
I second.
Any other nominations for FOIA OMA officer? Seeing none, I will call the vote. All those in favor of Elisa as FOIA OMA officer? All those opposed? Any abstentions? Principal Sami abstains. Congratulations, Alyssa. You are the new FOIA OMA officer. If it makes you feel any better, I got 0 FOIA requests, but maybe people will find you more open and willing to reach out to. The next item on the agenda is item 10, establish schedule of regular LSC meetings for remainder of school year 2021-22.
Can I ask a question about that, Mr. Seawright? I was curious if we have any direction as to whether these meetings will be in person or if they will be virtual and how we're planning on moving forward.
I have no information, but I've not heard that CPS buildings have been opened to parents or the public, but I will defer to Principal Zami.
I have not received any updated guidance.
Yeah, I had the same question as Jerry. We're kind of need to find an answer.
Have an answer?
What's that?
I see Marcus Pittman in the audience and he's got his hand up and you might be in position to tell us.
Good afternoon or good evening. So until we hear anything different, the district and the state are still recommending virtual meetings. I heard a rumor today that the state signed off for an additional month for so they have like a 10 person or less recommendation. maximum for meeting in person. LSCs obviously, in some cases have more than 10 people. And so because of that, we're still recommending that the virtual meetings continue until further notice.
Thank you, Marcus. Any further discussion on that question? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to open up discussion on the calendar. Would anyone like to speak?
I'm going to put in the chat recommended dates that I've looked at. If this is with the premise on if we keep Thursdays as our meeting dates, because of, I think historically I've found that having a December meeting can be challenging because we're coming off of Thanksgiving break and heading into winter break. And so there's often not a lot of new information between December and January. So I'm recommending that we not hold a meeting for December unless something comes up that would require us to. And then because school is ending June 14th, I'm recommending not to hold a June meeting unless we need to schedule a meeting later on. So these would be recommended Thursdays if we keep the traditional schedule that we've worked on before.
I'm sorry, Principal Zamy, you cut out for me personally at the very end there.
Sorry about that. I was just saying that these are just recommended Thursdays if we keep the traditional Thursday meeting date as we've done in years past.
Okay. And are you proposing six, what time was it start, 6 or 6:30?
We've traditionally started at 6, but I think that, can be up for discussion with the council.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess maybe so that those who may be watching and not being able to see the chat, the recommended dates are September 23rd, October 21st, November 18th, January 20th, February 17th, March 17th, April 21st, and May 19th.
Any other discussion on these proposed dates or any other proposed dates?
Do you anticipate, Ms. Zamy, that there will be any kind of changes? I don't know, after we voted as a council at the budget meeting in May, then the district handed down some, additional cuts. And I don't recall the timing of that, but I wonder if that's something, if we did have a June meeting, if they're going to announce cuts when that typically happens from the district level.
Every year it's been different. So it's after the budgeting season closes, there's agreed upon time between CTU and the district for when those notifications need to happen.
Was our vote on the budget, was that a regular meeting this year or was it a special budget meeting?
That was a special meeting, I do believe.
Ms. Zamy, do you see an issue with April 21st? I happen to have the CPS calendar in front of me. Is high school conferences? You don't see an issue with us having an LSC meeting on that night, do you?
Not unless it's an issue for any of our members.
I was thinking, okay.
Like other parents, you mean, Jerry?
If anyone on the council has a kid in high school that they're going to need to. I was thinking, Bill,
That guy.
the name that came to my head.
I mean, I think if it operates, I don't really know how it operates, but I assume there's a little flex. That day gives us a lot of flexibility that we can plan around. So, but thank you for thinking of that. But I'm okay with it.
March 17th is St. Patrick's Day and my birthday. But it's also a Thursday, so I don't know how much celebrating I'll be doing on that day.
I celebrated my birthday this year with a 4-hour meeting.
Yes, you did. I remember that.
Well, okay.
So does that mean we're shooting for 5 hours? on
I,
the-
I will be motivated to keep that meeting short then. Okay, so is there any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll need a motion to accept these dates and all at 6 p.m. for our regular meetings.
I'll make a motion to accept those Thursdays at 6 p.m. as the dates for the regular LSC meeting for 21 and 22.
I will second that.
I heard Alyssa. Okay, seeing no further discussion, I will call the vote. All those in favor of these 7 Thursdays at 6 p.m. All those opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the motion to accept structure of LSC meetings. The first item, there's 3 sub items: Robert's Rules of Order, duration and method of committee reports, public participation. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the first item on this section, Robert's Rules of Order?
I'm happy to chime in on that one. I had a conversation with CPS Legal when they reviewed the bylaws, and it was a suggestion from them for meetings going forward that having Robert's Rules of Order is kind of the ultimate democratic method of running meetings. It gives voice not just to the majority, but to the minority. And will also allow us to, as a council or as chair, help manage kind of the time, the duration of the meetings as well.
Because I noticed that on the agenda, I went ahead and verified that in our bylaws, we already say that we are governed by Robert's Rules of Order. I think we just haven't been sticking to that very strictly. And I just felt that that was worth noting. Any other discussion on Robert's Rules of Order?
I just wanted to ask a question. So we're basically, it's already in our bylaws. We've already voted to use Robert's Rules of Order. So when we accept the structure of the LSC meetings, we are agreeing to abide by Robert's Rules of Order. Is there, what should we do to prepare ourselves to be more adherent to that?
I was part of a group that held pretty strictly to Robert's Rules of Order, and part of that, the biggest takeaway that I got was that the body, the way that I would implement it is that the body would be deciding a lot of the things that we do. So I will be, as chair, I will be asking for the sentiment of the body if I think, so right now we've been having a very informal discussion round where everyone just kind of speaks as they feel they needed. There will be times I think where timed rounds might be appropriate. So I will be suggesting it, timed rounds, or I will be asking if there's any sentiment for a time round, in which case we would suspend the informal discussion that we're normally used to. I think also, so when there are items on the agenda where people are giving reports, I think what I've seen done is that the speakers request of the body a certain amount of time to speak, and then there's a timekeeper that keeps track of that time. And if they want you additional time, then they have to go to the body to ask for it. If there's a second round, if there's a sentiment for a second round of discussion, there would be a motion for it as well as a suggested amount of time. Yeah, and so the same would be true of public participation. At the times where we have formal rounds, I would take a round of names for discussion, and then people can add their names as they feel is needed. If anyone understands Robert Rules of Order to be different, I'd appreciate them speaking up. Okay, is there any further discussion on this subpoint? Seeing none, we'll move on to the second subpoint, duration and method of committee reports. Is there anyone who would like to speak to this point?
Would just like to say that I don't know about duration, but method we had discussed in accessibility meetings to have them submitted in writing before the meeting, so that it makes the secretary's job easier, and we can share it out more easily.
I like that idea for personal secretary reasons now, but also for efficiency's sake. I will say from the experience when we tried that in the past, sometimes it was challenging to get that ahead of the meeting. So we may want to just think about relationships protocol for sort of trying to do that clearly and efficiently to ensure that. But I support it.
So maybe something along the lines of, if there's something that is really critical that needs to be discussed during the meeting or something, we can bring that up. Otherwise, the rest of it can be found in the report that will be available before or shortly after the meeting, or after the LSC meeting.
I'd really love to hear the opinion of people who have had to give reports at LSC meetings.
Well, I know for like us with the PPLC, like there's no problem giving the report beforehand, but if it's the day before, the night before, then the turnaround might get delayed. You know, and we haven't scheduled those out for the next year, but usually we take notes during the meeting and then send them. And the only delay is if it's like the, you know, right before. But otherwise, I think it's a good idea and it makes more sense.
Anyone else?
Just that there's a bit of kind of delay in the committee reports, in that we'll kind of name all the committees and it'll be no update. And I feel like we kind of waste, you know, maybe 10 minutes a meeting doing that. So I don't know how we can avoid it, but maybe only doing updates when, you know, there is one somehow.
I know in the past also, people have taken certain committees as their committee they're going to report out on, and that minimizes wasting of time when we're like, who's here to give the PSO update, or who's here to give the FOP update. So either getting those ahead of time or having someone who will attend, who will give an update, might also save some time.
I think that's a really good point, Evan, and I would appreciate it as the person who has to chair these meetings going forward. Does any of this need to be codified in a motion? Does anyone have any motion that they would like to propose? Seeing no sentiment for a motion, I'm going to move that this seems to be the sentiment of the body, and I will endeavor to do this as the chair. Request that people submit reports in writing, and also notify me ahead of time who will be speaking on behalf of whomever is giving a report, and I will try to share that, and if possible, include it as part of the agenda. Okay, seeing no further discussion on this sub item, I will move on to the last item, public participation. Would anyone like to speak to this point?
Hello, everyone. Just want to say, appreciate the invite for the meeting. Hope you guys are doing well. Just wanted to reiterate, I'm temporarily signed to Network 2 as the LSC relations specialist. So we provide the same tools and resources and support to LSCs as the previous person assigned. So it is on a temporary basis, but again, there is somebody that will be here to help if you guys ever need anything or have any questions about LSC matters. So thanks.
Sorry for clarification. Do you mind if I call you Marcus, or would
Absolutely.
you prefer
Sure.
Mr. Pittman?
Sure. Either one. Whatever.
Right, thank you, sir.
Whatever rolls off the tongue easier for you.
All right. It'll probably be Mr. Pittman for the first 6 months. So were you speaking in terms of public participation because you thought, so what we're discussing now is the structure of LSC meetings. So we're discussing public participation. Did you mean that as part of public participation?
I'm sorry, maybe I did get thrown off by that.
Okay, no worries. I don't think anyone objects to you speaking on that point. But I think that so thank you for introducing yourself. I do believe that we are discussing public participation as the structure of public participation at LSC meetings.
So I think based off of the June meeting, I believe we had talked about that in that meeting, needing to define if we are having time limits, if we're allowing people to speak for, one time only per meeting, or if we're going to do multiple rounds. So I think that would be important to decide on today.
Does anyone want to? I have opinions. My opinion is that it should be up to the body. I know that was controversial last time, but I also think that it's the appropriate way to move forward. We have one round of public participation, and if the body decides there should be a second round, then there can be a vote for that second round.
You mean during, because usually we have two.
Yeah, so I think during
opportunities. So you mean for each one of those opportunities, once folks have gone in for the first time, then we pause and we say, there's nobody else at stack. Do we want to open it up for a second round?
Yeah, if someone stacks a second time.
If someone stacks a second time. Okay.
Yeah, and as chair, I will be suggesting a time, probably 2 minutes for public participation, and we will be timing people. And if there is objection to a 2-minute time public participation, then members of the body can object, propose a different amount of time, and then we can vote on that.
So just to clarify, if someone stacks a second time, we're going to publicly speak about whether that person is allowed to speak again? Because if that's the case, I'm not comfortable with that. That's what I felt led to a lot of confrontation. So it's like, let's say Evan speaks in public participation, and then the next time he wants to speak, we say, oh, Evan Trad wants to speak again. So then we discuss whether we're going to give him the choice to speak again. I'm really uncomfortable discussing that as a council in front of the public. I felt like that led to a lot of controversial. So I think, I don't know, I feel maybe we need to have some type of plan for that. Or if I just feel that way, then I'm the minority, and that's fine as well.
So something that is done, and we did this in a PPLC meeting, and I think it worked very, very well, was putting a time limit on public participation. And like, public participation will go for 10 minutes. And people can speak as often as they want. As chair, Javier, you would call on people who haven't spoke yet first, to give them, the opportunity to speak before someone else. And at the end of the 10 minutes, then we as a body can then decide if we want to extend the time. If, for example, if there are still names on the list and stack, or things like that, I think that would be a more diplomatic way than speaking about someone necessarily.
So the 10 minutes is for everyone. So I could see a scenario where somebody comes in and then starts talking for 10 minutes.
Oh, they would have we had a 2-minute time limit.
Oh, so I have a 2-minute limit
Mhm.
for a total of 10 minutes. So we got 5 people that are going to be able to speak.
It doesn't have to be 10 minutes. That was just what we
Right,
did.
right. But like
Like
a
say a block
suggested.
for 20 minutes, because
Got
then it's like you speak once and then you can't get called on again until everyone else has passed the mic and spoken again. Because I personally, not speaking for the council, but I really would like to try to avoid next year 3-4 hour meetings. But I also want to hear what people say. But I also think that we should allow people to speak, but we have to be very diplomatic in how we do it, because I think we got a lot of pushback for a lot of stuff that happened in public participation. So I feel like I'd like to have a firmer plan going into it.
I like what. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Matthew. Sorry.
No, I was about to say, I like what's being proposed. I just, when we get to the 2 minutes, then somebody's going to cut them off, which is what, and then again, we need to agree with that. But then at the same, is that going to be enough time?
Matthew, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I did the cutoff. Evan called on people and I did the cutoff. And I did it in a very respectful manner. I think, Claire, you were at the meeting, I believe. I just said, I'm really sorry, but that's our 2-minute limit. We're going to move on now. And no one was like, it wasn't like, you're done, shut up. It was, this is your 2-minute limit and we're going to move on. And then Evan called the next person and we told them we were doing it this way before. So it was very transparent. No one got, I don't think anyone got upset, Evan, did they? No, and it was the meeting, we were talking about ACE and we were talking about things that were a little bit heated, and everyone was fine with it.
Yeah, I think that's what happens on the school board, right? Like they give them 2 minutes and then they cut him off at some point. Yeah, in principle, I think that makes sense. I can get behind that.
Javi, could you speak to, just back to your earlier point, and I want to make sure I'm understanding. So if as a body we decide, my understanding is it wouldn't be, person X is not going to be allowed to speak for a second round. It would be, as a body, do we agree to have a second round of participation, from the same individuals, or we're going to do 1 round? So I just want to make sure I understand, so that it's not that the purpose isn't, to put someone on the spot or anything.
Yeah, that's correct. And how I've seen it done when there's a second, so there's a speakers list, and for the second round, you just go down the list and ask people if they want to speak again. I don't know if that would work for our situation, but I could see so my preference, I would be fine with a time limit on public participation. I could see us reaching that time limit and there being 1 person stacked, and then we would be discussing the same issue, whether or not we wanted to extend public participation for 1 person who was stacked. So I'm not sure it avoids that problem. I think that we are also, we could just lock it down to avoid that issue of discussing if people get to speak again a second time. We just decide to have one round of public participation, and I would be fine with that as well.
Can I ask for just a point of clarification as well? So in that second round, just say if we have the first round for, like Jerry said, 10 minutes or so, the second round, are we extending another 10 minutes, or can we say the second round would be for 5 minutes? Just so that in order to make it fair, I guess, we could shorten the second round and just, I don't know, just extend it. If the first round is 10 minutes, we'd say the second round would be 5 minutes or something like that. And individuals get like half the time that they got to respond the first time. So if they got 2 minutes the first time, are they getting 1 minute the first time, or are they getting another 2 minutes?
Can I also just say, I think we place public participation on the agenda at minimum twice. So you could also look at those being separate rounds so that it's not necessary to add additional rounds within that agenda item.
And so those people that, Ms. Amy, so those people that didn't speak, if they were cut off, they would go first in the second participation round, right? And they would still have the same time allotment.
That's the way I look at it. Like you could, like if public participation is listed twice, depending on the order of the stack, somebody could go 2 times. Or you would have nobody potentially that second time, or maybe you got through 10 unique individuals the first time the time period ended, you then maybe have 10 additional unique people that second time around.
I'll say I like the idea of timed 2 minutes. Everybody gets 2 minutes no matter what. Only once per public participation round. But I wouldn't put a cap. I think, Evan, your point is a good one about that, like 10-minute, or like, in other words, a certain number of slots basically per round. But I think some of the more powerful times that we've had have been ones where there's been lots of people who wanted to speak. So I guess I would be okay with not putting a cap on the number of people in a round. And by round, I mean just the agenda item where it says public participation. You get to go once during that time. If you have something to follow up or you have a reply to somebody else, no. You can sign yourself up for the next one if there's another one. And if it's after that one, then you come to the next meeting or something. But I'm okay with a cap on the number of times you participate, but not on the number of people.
I was just unmuting to say the same thing. I agree with everything Bill just said.
So we would need someone in the role of timekeeper to hold all of us accountable.
Sounds like you were already pretty good at that, Ms. Bonkin, so maybe.
It was fun. No, I'm just kidding. I don't mind. I will do it if that's necessary. I will do it. And I think that sounds like we are on our way to a compromise.
I think that makes sense. The other thing also is, and I'm sorry if we haven't completely agreed on that format, but I just kind of spent a few minutes kind of looking at prior meetings, both this one and on this council, other councils. And I went back to our training, and we call it public participation, right? Really it's public comment. And what I've seen is many times there was sort of like an effort by the members of the council to kind of respond to some of the questions right away that were posed during the meeting. And in some cases that sort of snowballed into other things that, just kind of got things a little bit out of control. So I guess my most fervent wish is that we keep it at public comment. If there's something that's super important, like, I don't know, some unfortunate incident that's happening or that happened in the afternoon right before the council, some emergency, we will address it, right? And irrespective of public comment or public participation. But I'm trying to see if there's a way we can sort of make that clear, right? Like, we would like people to participate and comment, but sometimes we also need some time to think about how we're going to respond so that the response makes sense and we don't get into a never-ending cycle.
One of the things that I've seen done at like the board meetings is the chair will defer to a member of the council or like the district's leadership staff in some cases to provide a response right then and there. Otherwise, like that person sort of directs versus like, members of the council just sort of like speaking in. It's sort of like the chair calls in who they think would be a good person to respond or says, is there a member of the council that would like to respond? If it's something that easily could be addressed. But I agree that there isn't a need most of the time for a response.
Good idea, Miss Amy. I was thinking about the same thing. Maybe if there's a response, it'd be up to the chair unless he or she defers.
Okay. This is good.
And I'm comfortable with that as chair.
That's something we don't need to vote on that, right?
No, I think it's all, I don't know. It depends on whether or not I'll trust me to keep to the stuff we're talking about.
I mean, it's part of the stuff that you're gonna need to read before we start the meeting.
Yeah.
And reiterate, and perhaps even reiterate that before public participation.
Yeah.
Just so we
I
know.
think maybe for future reference, we should, as a council, just to have it for the minutes that, if we need to come back to this, everybody's on the same page, Robert's Rules of Order, the public participation.
I think we can amend section 6 under meetings of the bylaws to define a little bit more clearly what the council's public participation structure will be, because it says in here, speaking rules will apply in all meetings, including executive session, but what do speaking rules mean? Like, how do we define that as a council? So I think what we've talked about could be added into the bylaws.
So the bylaw, looking at the agenda, we're discussing public participation right now. We can end this point and move on to the bylaws section. Any objection to that? Oh, sorry, let's see. I feel like that is a good place to end it. Is there any sentiment for more discussion on the public participation? There is.
No. It's not discussion. I just want to ask that, like, in preparation of our next meeting, how you read like the what the role of the LSC is. I think, Mr. Seawright, it would be good if you added something in to the public as to how we're conducting public participation, so that they're not blindsided, that we are going to have a timekeeper, that it is 2 minutes, just very transparent, so that when it comes down to it, no one is saying they were being silenced or anything like that.
Yeah, my preference would be to include it as part of the agenda, just like at the bottom. And so the sentiment that I hear is 1 round, so 2 rounds of public participation overall. Everyone gets to speak once for a particular amount of time, and nobody gets to speak twice on the same round. Okay. All right.
It was 2 minutes though, right? Everybody gets 2 minutes?
It's always been 2 minutes traditionally. Yeah. I think that's an ample amount of time.
I would say 2 minutes. So as chair, I would say a 2 minute round, and ask, I would, for formality's sake, ask if there was any sentiment for more or less time. Any objection to 2 minute public participation round? And if there wasn't, we would just move forward as under the circumstances. Okay, any further discussion on this point of the agenda? Seeing none, let's transition to the next point, the discussion vote of the 2022 LSC bylaws. Can someone clarify this for me? Do we need to re-accept the bylaws, or is this meant to be a discussion on changes to the bylaws?
We can re-accept, or we could table and say that we'll make additions to public participation and then accept, or we could accept and then still make an amendment to public participation.
I mean, we got 2 months. So, I mean, that 10-day period that we need to get for folks to give them notice. I mean, Evan brought that up the other day. I think it's important. But I don't really think that between now and the next meeting, I think we can wait, get everything summarized, and then pass it once or approve it once.
As a rule follower, I'm generally uncomfortable with operating without any bylaws. So my suggestion would be to accept the bylaws that we already have and then add an item to the agenda to amend the bylaws at the first regular meeting.
I'm with you, Javier, especially since we just voted on them last meeting. So I'll motion to accept the bylaws.
A second.
Any further discussion? Okay, I will call the question. All those in favor of accepting the bylaws as is? Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? All right, motion passes. Any further discussion on this point of the agenda? Seeing none, the next point of the agenda, discussion of LSC committees and selection of LSC committee officers. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this point? So my understanding is that we are discussing the LSC committees and committee officers for LSC meetings. Do I need a motion to accept the previous LSC committees, or?
Can you remind us what they are?
Yeah, I was about to say we have one less.
Oh, right. Let me reference an old agenda.
I have one here. Bilingual. Can I?
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Chair, can I proceed? Okay.
Thank you.
There's BAC, FOP, PSO, the PPLC, the Principal Evaluation Committee, Safety and Security. There was a Bylaws Committee. There's a Cleanliness, and then LSC Communications.
Thank you, Matthew.
So one quick thing here, I listed PSO. In previous meetings, PSO and REP reports were under another rubric or another category that were referred to as community group reports, different than committee reports. So I don't know if we want to maintain that distinction going forward.
I think, and the folks that have been serving longer can maybe expand on, but I feel like with the community group reports, they have established kind of, for lack of a better term, hierarchy for those people reporting out. Whereas the committee reports for, some of the other groups like, PPLC has our teacher reps leading that, and cleanliness, Jerry's kindly leading that. So I'm not sure if we need to include community groups from that perspective that the LSC would report on. If I'm making sense.
I think my recollection is that we at some point separated them between committees that are every school is required and guaranteed to have, and then committees that are not required, but we have them. And so I think in that case, something like FOP too should not be in the required, but in the optional. But I think it was just an organizational distinction to sort of try to break up that part of the agenda rather than have 12 all in one. But I don't feel strongly about preserving it or removing it. Either way is fine with me.
Does anyone have strong opinions about how the things need to be grouped? The committees and groups need to be grouped.
I would suggest, I'm sorry, go ahead, Evan.
Oh, I was just gonna recommend maybe safety and security and cleanliness be grouped in one, led by Jerry Baumgarten or myself, because I think that's still going to be an important aspect as we return to school, but I don't know if we need two separate committees since cleanliness relates to safety in our building in some aspects.
I do see them as different just because the safety committee looked at school discipline data versus the cleanliness looked at sort of our,
Operations,
the school and
logistics.
school cleanliness, yeah.
And for cleanliness, we'll have to, I don't know if Lori, if you're still gonna be on the safety committee, right? For the cleanliness. So until I come back, I guess you'll have to report out on that.
Yeah.
I can also do that, Jerry.
I didn't know if you wanted to go to those safety meetings at 7:15 in the morning.
I can always get a report from someone that does attend those meetings.
They're very fun.
Okay, any other strong opinions?
I was just going to piggyback on what Bill said. We had separated them out just because I think some of them had requirements, and so I would suggest maybe keeping those that have I don't know, school mandates or requirements separate from those that are ad hoc community groups.
Okay, so then out of the list that I just pushed out, we would move FOP to the second bucket. So the second bucket would include FOP, PSO, and REP. All the other ones would be in the first bucket. And I don't know if we have any preference as to which one goes first. I'd say we should go, but whatever, doesn't matter.
So I remember working on this at the last organizational committee meeting and trying to get these buckets right. And we also had cleanliness and bylaws committee in that group as well. So it was like cleanliness, Friends of Peirce.
Yeah. So that one. So we're saying.
Bylaws.
Yeah. So I think we're saying the first group would be back, PPLC, principal evaluation, safety and security, cleanliness, bylaws, LSC communications. That'll be the first group. And the second group would be FOP, PSO, and REP.
The other one that's not on here is student council because student council did not meet the last year. So I think they would probably fall in the community report section. In which case, what we've done in the past is actually held student council report as one of the first agenda items, completely separate. Especially when we were in person, students would attend and we didn't want to have them wait 2-3 hours. They could stick around if they chose, but this allowed them to come and go if they felt necessary.
So maybe that could be before principal's report.
Yeah, we could just put them as like the first agenda item also.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, can we have a motion? Or is there sentiment for further discussion?
I'll make a motion to add the student council report as the, I guess we'll call it first item on the agenda after the approval of the agenda items. And then having the committee reports followed by the community group reports. Understanding that the community group reports include REP and PSO.
Second.
Is that motion clear enough for everybody? To summarize, the student council will be its own agenda item, and FOP and PSO will be moved to the community group report section. Is there any second for this motion?
Second.
Second from Trey. All those in favor?
I actually have a discussion question.
Oh,
Sorry. How does this relate to our agreement to have things submitted ahead of time? Like, would then people are just showing up to read their report? Is it, you know what I mean? Like, how does that relate to the written report thing that we just agreed to?
Yeah, so I think we said so the expectation will be that these reports will be short. And if people need further information about what was discussed during these report meetings, they could refer to the written information. And so they would, during their report out, they will bring up any salient or important information that they feel they need to share at the time of the LSC meeting. And for the rest of it, we can just redirect them to those reports.
so as chair, I would be requesting the person who's going to report, asking for the written report, and I will try to distribute that. And so the impulse would be like, if we have the written reports, why do we need it in as part of the agenda? But that would be, but we cannot preclude any discussion on any given report. So it's we would have the written report. Most of the time there won't be any discussion on any of it, but for those times where the LSC feels they need to have a discussion, we have the written report, and then we can have a discussion on those points. That's a distinction in to my understanding.
So the agenda items are actually for us to have organization to discuss them, not actually for people to report out on them.
That's correct. The whole point is for us to discuss and have any motions and that type of thing.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Does anyone need the motion read out or summarized for them? Seeing nobody's hands go up, I will call the vote. All those in favor? Thank you. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay, motion passes. Any further discussion on this item of the agenda? Okay, hearing and seeing none. The next item.
Sorry, Javier. We have also as an agenda, part of that same line, the committee officers.
Okay,
Who would be, who from the council will participate in the safety and security, the bylaws, the LSC communications principal eval.
okay, thank you, Principal Zamy. Oh, sorry. What is the best way to proceed? I know that we didn't have I don't think we had a person assigned to every committee last time. Should we just go through the group, the reports and ask if anyone wants to be an officer? And I'm going to assume that if no one volunteers or no one speaks up, that there is, it's not seen as being required. Does that seem fair? Okay, so going through the different committees.
I can put in the chat, I'm just looking at the last organizational meeting, we did name people for each, so I can put that in the chat if that's helpful, like what we had last time.
That is very helpful. Thank you, Nicole.
If we just want to vote for, like, you know, to keep it the same potentially. Okay, 1 second.
That would be faster.
So that's everyone's initials. And I can read this out for people who aren't reading chat, but also just wanted to take the opportunity to announce that the council knows, but I just wanted to announce publicly that my daughter will be joining Peirce in the fall. So for pre-K 4. And so I'll need to resign from the LSC effective August 30th. So I want to make sure that everybody is aware of that. So I'll have to step down from the committees I'm a part of as well. So I can read through, okay, so for the bylaws committee, we had Aisha and Claire. Safety and security, Matthew and Aisha. Principal evaluation, Jerry, Evan, Elisa, Trey, and Aisha. Cleanliness committee, Jerry and Aisha, and LSC communications committee was myself and Javier. And I'll need to step down from that one. So I guess I could, to move us along, if there's no changes, I could motion to accept this with the exception of removing myself from the LSC communications committee.
I'll ask Jerry for cleanliness. Jerry, if you're still there, sorry, I'm looking at, I've got chat open. Jerry was spearheading cleanliness, so I was just going to ask if she felt like she needed additional support. Can't hear you.
I said, I'm still here. I think Evan and I can cover it between the two of us, right, Evan? Yeah, cool. Thank you.
So does that mean that Aisha?
You can add me to the cleanliness committee.
And Aisha, are you looking to be moved off of it?
I would be moved off of it.
Okay. Let me go through every individual committee and just that might be more straightforward. So the bylaws committee is currently Aisha and Claire. Do either of you want to step off of that committee? Does anyone want to step on?
I'm happy to stay on.
Okay, so moving on to the next committee, safety and security. Matthew and Aisha, are either of you looking to step off? Is anyone looking to step on?
I'm staying in.
Okay, and Aisha is as well. Principal Evaluation Committee, Jerry, Evan, Alyssa, Trey, and Aisha. Is anyone looking to step off, or is anyone else looking to step on?
I would like to add myself to that committee.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, the next one, cleanliness, we've already discussed. Aisha is stepping off and Evan is stepping on. Would anyone else like to step on or step off? Guess not. All right, last one, LSC Communications Committee. Nicole is stepping off. I will stay on, and Bill.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I would step on if, since Nicole is stepping off of that.
Okay. Bill, as secretary, could you join the communications committee?
Sure.
Okay, any other committees we need to discuss? Okay. Do we have a motion to accept those changes?
I'll motion to accept those changes.
I will second.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining, not voting, motion passes. Any further discussion on this item of the agenda? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next item of the agenda, which is approval of minutes. There are 2 minutes on the agenda, but we only have minutes for one of those meetings, the June 15th meeting. I'm responsible for the May 27th meeting, and I haven't been able to finish them because it was pretty long, chaotic. According to the LSC guidelines, we have up to the second regular meeting, so we still have time to approve them without being in violation of guidelines. So I will call the motion for the second meeting, the June 15th meeting. Any discussion on the June 15th meeting minutes?
I received a email about a typo. I accidentally called Aramac Airmark in the notes. So I'll motion to approve when it's time. I guess I'll motion to approve the minutes with that correction.
Any further discussion on the June 15th meeting minutes? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the minutes of the June 15th meeting as corrected.
I will motion to accept the June 15th meeting minutes as corrected.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those against? Opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the motion to accept the meeting for June 15th passes. The next item on the agenda is public comment.
Javi, I'm sorry to interrupt. It just occurred to me that we as a council haven't talked about how we're going to use Zoom chat. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to derail the meeting in any way, but I'm not sure that we discussed that. If we are going to keep Zoom chat open during meetings or if we're going to leave it closed until we get to public participation.
So that would be, I'm not, so procedurally, I'm not sure how we should proceed with that since it's not an agenda item. I know that we're allowed to add items to the agenda, but I'm not sure what that procedure is relative to OMA. So I would prefer to have, if we're allowed to add an agenda item at this point, I would prefer a vote on that, and then we can have that discussion.
I don't think we can, if it's not on the agenda, my understanding is we can't vote on it. We couldn't vote to, as a council, approve only using Zoom chat during public participation, and it's closed otherwise. So maybe it's at the next LSC meeting, something that we vote on.
Can I make the recommendation that the bylaws committee looks at writing something into the bylaws and then propose that to the council for approval at the next meeting? And maybe they can circulate something in advance to seek input.
Okay, that's a great suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no new, then I'm going to go ahead and move on to public comment. Let's see. This is my first time running any kind of public comment. Aisha, if you can. I don't see anybody stacked. All right, so we're gonna move on to public comment. I'm proposing a 2-minute timed public participation round. Give me a second while I get a timer. I will be right back. I am back with a timer, and looking at the chat, I don't see anyone stacked. April, can you check my math?
I don't know that anybody knows 2 stack. I don't think we've said that yet in this meeting.
Ah. In that case, we are in public comment. If anybody would like to speak, I ask that you add yourself to the speakers list by typing in stack into chat. And I will wait a couple of minutes. Okay, not seeing anyone stacking. So I'm going to go ahead and move to the next item of the agenda. Sorry, just. Motion to move into closed session to discuss personnel matters. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
I second.
Any? Yes, Principal Zamy?
So for discussion, so we'll need to, I think what we can do is end the recording and start the recording again so that we have unique recordings versus having to cut the video. And then,
I mean, I think that, so the way that we handled, I should please refresh my memory. We started a different meeting and recorded that one.
We did, yeah. Claire kindly recorded the second meeting for us that time. I think what we did the last time, well, again, we're running into that issue of we can't leave people in the waiting room and be able to splice the recording.
And we're also streaming on the YouTube. So
Yeah.
I think that we would need to leave this meeting
create
on another meeting, and then.
Yeah.
And I don't think.
If you want.
I'm sorry, Claire, I didn't hear you.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm happy to create a meeting link right now and email you all if you want.
Thank you. I think that's what we're going to have to do since
And so then this main meeting link will just stay live.
Yes.
yes.
We'll all leave this meeting, but like Ms. Munoz will still be here
Okay,
and then we'll all rejoin.
thank you.
Okay, so let's confirm that. Claire, can you let us know when you have emailed that out? We'll all confirm that we received it, and then we can move to that new meeting space.
I might have to leave the meeting in order to create it. So I can text.
We should, yes, if you text me, I will make sure everyone got the email. Thank you. Should I go get the cute baby while we're waiting?
Not if she's sleeping.
She's probably having dinner. Would this be a good time for a bio break? Okay. Does that require a motion of anything?
Well, Javier, should we finish the vote on moving into closed session and then do the bio break?
Yeah, I think that's appropriate. And we still have quorum without Claire. Sorry, Bill, did I have a second on the motion?
I had Claire as the second. Yeah.
Okay. Let's vote on the motion. All those in favor? Opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, motion passes. So I showed the bio break. Was that a motion or just a sentiment?
Do we need a motion? I think we could just, I was just gonna say, I think we just,
Yeah,
we're gonna go.
just take a 5-minute bio break, and hopefully in that time we'll have the meeting link. See you all at 6:28.
Should I be leaving this meeting and then going to the other one?
I was just waiting to confirm that everyone got the email, but it looks like I've got an email and everyone left this meeting.
Okay.
So I'll see you that meeting,
Okay.
and I will message Matthew and Trey if they're not in that meeting.
Sure. Great.
Leticia, I don't think we will need interpretation any longer.
Did everyone make it back? Seems like it. I see 11 of us here. Okay, I need a motion to move back into open session.
I'll motion to move back into open session.
Is there a second? I see Trey. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is adjournment. Is there anyone who wants to motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? I see Trey. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Motion passes. We are adjourned.
Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Evening. Take
Thank
care.
you,
Bye,
everyone.
guys.